Hello, everyone. Today we're reading Lesson 12, A Meaningless. Excuse me. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. Lesson 12. And we are reading the chapter section. We're reading chapter 2, The Separation and the Atonement, section 2, The Atonement as Defense. You can do anything I ask. I have asked you to perform miracles and have made it clear that miracles are natural, corrective, healing, and universal. There is nothing they cannot do, but they cannot be performed in the spirit of doubt or fear. When you are afraid of anything, you are acknowledging its power to hurt you. Remember that where your heart is, there is your treasure also. You believe in what you value. If you are afraid, you are valuing wrongly. Your understanding will then inevitably value wrongly, and by endowing all thoughts with equal power will inevitably destroy peace. That is why the Bible speaks of the peace of God which passeth understanding. This peace is totally incapable of being shaken by errors of any kind. It denies the ability of anything not of God to affect you. This is the proper use of denial. It is not used to hide anything, but to correct error. It brings all error into the light, and since error and darkness are the same, it corrects error automatically. Okay, I need to interject something in here, folks. Yesterday, I had shared how when I stood up to my family in my own light of truth, how the migraine I had been experiencing vanished completely. And in this first paragraph here, when he talks about there is nothing they cannot do, but they cannot be performed in the spirit of doubt or fear. I had to let go all doubt that I was wrong in some way in what I was believing to be true within me. And in that instant, I stepped up into his truth, in his light as he showed me, and spoke it with conviction in my heart. And what it has given me to understand is that when sharing my experiences and the lessons learned, there is a feeling of being conveyed, devoid of all fear and doubt. And that feeling being conveyed is the conviction of truth within me. The light of that truth is what is being perceived and witnessed for yourself. And when we share from our experiences and the lessons we have learned, there's a conviction of truth that is being shown in that moment, which is unlike any sort of belief that comes from when you read a line from a book or repeat something that you've heard someone else say or that you've read from a book as being true for you. There's two total different feelings that come from that kind of belief. One is a conviction of experienced truth, and the other is just a conceptual truth. Huge difference. Continuing on. True denial is a powerful protective device. You can and should deny any belief that error can hurt you. This kind of denial is not a concealment, but a correction. Your right mind depends on it. Denial of error is a strong defense of truth, but denial of truth results in miscreation, the projections of the ego. In the service of the right mind, the denial of error frees the mind and reestablishes the freedom of the will. When the will is really free, it cannot miscreate because it recognizes only truth. You can defend truth as well as error. This means the means are easier to understand after the value of the goal is firmly established. It is a question of what it is for. This is my dyslexia pulling in, folks, switching the words around. If you notice, I say them backwards and then I have to correct myself. So let's try this again from the beginning on number 3. You can defend truth as well as error. The means are easier to understand after the value of the goal is firmly established. It is a question of what it is for. Everyone defends his treasure and will do so automatically. The real questions are, what do you treasure? And how much do you treasure it? Once you have learned to consider these questions and to bring them into all your actions, you will have little difficulty in clarifying the means. The means are available whenever you ask. You can, however, save time if you do not protract this step unduly. The correct focus will shorten it immeasurably. Interjecting here. So, as I was saying, when I was willing to look within myself at the things that I was believing in as truth, my core beliefs, and I recognized what I had been defending all my life were these beliefs and these judgments from somebody else. And every time it caused me pain and suffering to defend those beliefs until I looked within and found out the truth of what I was doing. I was defending lies. And it's looking within at those types of things and recognizing that all these things we're taught to believe in. And I learned to question myself. What is it I'm believing here as being true? Is this true? Is there any value to this as being true? Excuse me. Continuing on. The atonement is the only defense that cannot be used destructively because it is not a device you made. The atonement principle was in effect long before the atonement began. The principle was love, and the atonement was an act of love. Acts were not necessary before the separation because belief in space and time did not exist. It was only after the separation that the atonement and the conditions necessary for its fulfillment were planned. Then a defense so splendid was needed that it could not be misused, although it could be refused. Refusal could not, however, turn it into a weapon of attack, which is the inherent characteristic of other defenses. The atonement thus becomes the only defense that is not a two-edged sword. It can only heal. The atonement was built into the space-time belief to set a limit on the need for the belief itself, and ultimately to make learning complete. The the atonement is the final lesson. Learning itself, like the classrooms in which it occurs, is temporary. The ability to learn has no value when change is no longer necessary. The eternally creative have nothing to learn. You can learn to improve your perceptions and can become a better and better learner. This will bring you into closer and closer accord with the sonship. But the sonship itself is a perfect creation, and perfection is not a matter of degree. Only while there is a belief in differences is learning meaningful. Interjecting here. Part of the thing that we are being taught to do is to recognize that we are all equal. No one is lesser or greater than you. No one is better than you, worse than you, any of that. Prettier, uglier, smarter, stupider, none of it. We are all equal. We are all perfect. And when we can begin to see ourselves in our brothers, and our brothers within ourselves, when we can recognize in whatever their situation is that's going on, when we can recognize ourselves in that situation that they're in and see ourselves in that situation and can equate with that, or relate with that, we can see them as our equal. And in that way, we are able to see there's no difference. We're exactly the same. And it's learning that truth, that we are equal in the same, experiencing things equally. Some may be at different levels of it, different intensities, but we're equal in that we are all learning the same lessons. Continuing on. 6. Evolution is a process in which you seem to proceed from one degree to the next. You correct your previous missteps by stepping forward. This process is actually incomprehensible in temporal terms because you return as you go forward. The atonement is the device by which you can free yourself from the past as you go ahead. It undoes your past errors, thus making it unnecessary for you to keep retracing your steps without advancing to your return. In this sense, the atonement saves time, but like the miracle it serves, does not abolish it. As long as there is need for atonement, there is need for time. But the atonement as a complete plan has a unique relationship to time. Until the atonement is complete, its various phases will proceed in time. But the whole atonement stands at time's end. At that point, the bridge of return has been built. So, I'm interjecting here again. There is a point I keep making. These things come up that we're reacting to here and now today. They're all connected to crap that happened to us in our past, in our childhood, that we locked down and locked in as being true. Like for me, with my grandmother force feeding me. In that instant, anyone trying to force their judgments and beliefs on me, trying to force anything, their will on me, gave me an instantaneous gag reflex. a gag reflex. In that moment, I learned that. And going back through and having those memories and looking at those memories and those experiences of being kicked across the room, for asking to be picked up and be loved, for being molested and touched and being told just because it happens, don't talk about it, and having the crap beat out of me until I learned to not talk about it. Going back and looking at those, asking for the correction to what I was believing to be true. And in that way, I am collapsing time, because all that crap, honey, that's the garbage, that's the luggage you keep carrying with you day in, day out. That's that burden that wears you down. That is the burden I carried day in, day out myself. And I've been learning to let it go. Some of it in big chunks, sometimes one piece at a time. And those are the things that we're being taught with this, is to let it go, is to go back, look at it, see what we misperceived and did. What are we believing here as being truth? What are we defining as defining us in this? And when we look at that and see the truth of what we've been believing in all our lives, and see the truth of it being a lie, and recognize that that isn't who we are, that doesn't define us, then only you can define you. In that moment, you learn to just walk away from it all, let it all go. It's not worth it to keep hold of that kind of garbage. And when you let that stuff go, you let those beliefs go, you heal. That backache you've been having suddenly disappears. Those throbbing headaches, all of it gone.
Diseases, all of it. In all of this, you have to understand that as you let this stuff go, you're no longer carrying it into your future. Your future is suddenly opened up brightly before you of unnameable possibilities. Because none of that stuff is holding you back, because they were all limiting you to this small little tiny box. Like the little Jack in the Box. They let you out and then they shove you back in with those beliefs. Oh honey, you're out. And this time you're loose. You can go. That's where it's leading you, is to that freedom of going. Last paragraph. The atonement is a total commitment. You may still think this is associated with loss, a mistake all the separated sons of God make in one way or another. It is hard to believe a defense that cannot attack is the best defense. This is what is meant by the meek shall inherit the earth. They will literally take it over because of their strength. A two-way defense is inherently weak, precisely because it has two edges and can be turned against you very unexpectedly. This possibility cannot be controlled except by miracles. The miracle turns the defense of atonement to your real protection, and as you become more and more secure, you assume your natural talent of protecting others, knowing yourself as both a brother and a son. And that, folks, was Chapter 2, The Separation and the Atonement, Section 2, The Atonement and Defense. And as this last paragraph was just stating, as you gain in conviction of belief through your experiences and the lessons you've learned from them, in that way you learn to stop doubting what you are being shown by Holy Spirit. When He shows you those memories and you ask Him to show you His truth and His purpose for all of this, and what it is that you are misperceiving and doing in that moment with whatever you were thinking, feeling, and believing. Because as those memories come up, you are recalling also the thoughts, the feelings and emotions, and the physical pains you were experiencing at that moment. Extremely, and it's like piercingly. And it's so you can recall what it was that was happening in that moment for you as a third party, detached from it, with the perspective of His sight, His hearing, His understanding, and asking Him for the correction to what it is you were perceiving. And in doing that, you are learning the truth of what it was you were doing to yourself in that moment, in believing whatever they were saying to you. Whatever they were doing to you. And even those things, if, like for me, I needed understanding to understand why it was my grandmother couldn't love me, why she kicked me across the room like that and refused to love me, why she had such anger and hatred toward me, why it was that my family couldn't accept me, couldn't love me, why it was that I was the only one out of all of the kids that never got a birthday party. Not one ever. It wasn't until 2 years ago that my husband gave me a birthday party, my first ever. And when he asked my family that, they all told him it was true. Isn't that not true, Alex?
It's true.
He thought this has got to be bullshit. She's got to be lying about this. And I wasn't. That's another thing about me. I can't lie. When I lie, I get very sick. I can only tell the truth. I'm empathic. It's like a psychic ability, you know. I can tell another person's intention. I can tell the truth of their intentions. I can hear the truth of their belief in the words they use, whether they're written or spoken. When they come into my sphere of being, I feel the truth of their intention in their physical energy. I always have. And every time I spoke that truth to my family as a child, I was punished for it, told I was imagining it, that it was all in my head, that I was making it up. And I had to learn as a child to shut down those abilities, to keep from feeling like I was going insane. I had to conform to their beliefs and their dictates. And when the shit hit the fan, guess what? They then blamed me and told me, well, I should have known better. I was a child. Nine years old? 5 years old? How am I supposed to know better? But that was their mentality. It was learning to let go of those judgments and beliefs that I had done something wrong, that I deserved it, that I asked for it. And then I also had to get over another truth, which was that I never felt pain in those interactions of being molested and raped. I only felt pleasure. And I felt guilt and shame about that. My body responded the way it did. It was my mind that told me to judge it based on what I was taught to be judged and to judge others with. And it's learning to let go of those beliefs and those judgments, those opinions that in the end open our eyes to who we are. We're not our bodies. We're not what anyone else thinks we are. We're not even what we think we are in the beginning here. We're the soul within the shell, experiencing ourselves through a reflection of everyone around us with our beliefs. We project out what we believe. And we're treated as we believe we need to be treated. What we think about ourselves is what we project out. And the world reflects it back to us. And we are learning that all of that is an illusion. It's not real. That's what we're learning to let go of. That's what's imaginary. When we learn to let all of that go, we'll learn to see this world truly. And it's going to be a beautiful place where no one judges. Let's move on to today's lesson. Lesson 12. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. The importance of this idea lies in the fact that it contains a correction for a major perceptual distortion. You think that what upsets you is a frightening world, or a sad world, or a violent world, or an insane world. All these attributes are given it by you. The world is meaningless in itself. These exercises are done with eyes open. Look around you, this time quite slowly. Try to pace yourself so that the slow shifting of your glance from one thing to another involves a fairly constant time interval. Do not allow the time of the shift to become markedly longer or shorter, but try instead to keep a measured, even tempo throughout. What you see does not matter. You teach yourself this as you give whatever your glance rests on equal attention in equal time. This is a beginning step in learning to give them all equal value. As you look about yourself, say to yourself, I think I see a fearful world, a dangerous world, a hostile world, a sad world, a wicked world, a crazy world, and so on, using whatever descriptive terms happen to occur to you. If terms which seem positive rather than negative occur to you, include them. For example, you might think of a good world or a satisfying world. If such terms occur to you, use them along with the rest. You may not yet understand why these nice adjectives belong in these exercises, but remember that a good world implies a bad one, and a satisfying world implies an unsatisfying one. All terms which cross your mind are suitable subjects for today's exercises. Their seeming quality does not matter. Be sure that you do not alter the time interval between applying today's idea to whatever you think is pleasant and whatever you think is unpleasant. For the purpose of these exercises, there is no difference between them. At the end of the practice period, add, but I am upset because I see a meaningless world. What is meaningless is neither good nor bad. Why then should a meaningless world upset you? If you could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth be written upon it for you, it would make you indescribably happy. But because it is meaningless, you are impelled to write upon it what you would have it be. It is this you see in it. It is this that is meaningless in truth. Beneath your words is written the word of God. The truth upsets you now, but when your words have been erased, you will see His. This is the ultimate purpose of these exercises. 3 or 4 times is enough for practicing the idea for today. Nor should the practice periods exceed a minute. You may find even this too long. Terminate the exercises whenever you experience a sense of strain. This is Lesson 12. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. Okay, folks, I want to bring this to your attention here. That everything I've been talking about is recognizing that you are judging everything around you as being this or that, good, bad, right or wrong. It is you that are making the judgments and the distinctions of what is and what is not. That is the illusion. That you think you believe you know what everything is and is about. Even yourself. Based on your own judgments. And those judgments are taught. Through fear, through guilt, through shame, and through physical pain and suffering. They are reinforced in this way again and again. And we are taught through society that, oh, this will make you happy. Keep chasing after this next thing. They're false idols. The next degree, the next title of this and that. Oh, I'm a doctor in this, and I am a scientist of that, and I am a reverend of this, and I'm a reverend of that, and I'm a minister of this, and a minister of that. And you're just like going, oh my God, all these titles, all these degrees, all these confusion. And you're taught to chase after that again and again and again, and to put that your faith and belief in those idols. And that people that have that idol, that have been learned to repeat what they've been taught by somebody else, know what they're saying. And that they know the absolute truth. No one can tell you the absolute truth. You got to find that for yourself. And the only way you can do that is to go within. Go within and look at what it is you're believing to be true with Holy Spirit. And ask Him for His truth, for His sight and His hearing as to what is true and what it is you're believing to be true. And only then will you be given the truth. But you got to be willing. You got to be willing. And believe me, if you ask for a break, you get it. I asked for just some space and time to have no overwhelming emotions, because I was being overwhelmed and bombarded with everyone's emotions from around me when I started doing this course. And let me tell you, being empathic and psychic, being overwhelmed with images and visions and the emotions of everyone around me, just someone walking by me on the street, even the animals around me, feeling their emotions, was just so overwhelming that I was on sensory overload. And I was like, okay, God damn it, I need a freaking break. Just give me a break with nothing. And I had an entire week of absolutely nothing. Dead silence. No thoughts, no emotions, no feelings of anything. Just sublime, peaceful nothingness. As if I was in the middle of a lake. And I was just surrounded by silence. It was utterly peaceful. But I still recognized that, as peaceful of it as it was, I couldn't stay there. I had to finish what I started. And I knew that my time there would come to an end. And I was willing. When I felt that willingness, my time ended.
Look at that camera from now on. This one's ran out of memory.
Thank you for joining me today. This was Lesson 12. I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. My name is Sabrina Reyenga. Alex behind the camera. Chance over here on the couch. Cutie Pie Chance. And Thor over there. And all the other critters around the house. Thank you for joining us today. And for hearing my light of truth. Namaste.